As we continue to think about the impact of worldview on communication, remember that we said worldview shapes the values of a culture, what they consider to be valuable or important. So when we communicate, our values deeply shape our thoughts, they shape our media choices, they shape our language, and all of our expression. In this lesson we're going to review some of the elements from my course on cultural anthropology. I'll reintroduce some of those concepts briefly to show how that influences our communication. I really believe that our sense of identity is a major influence on how we communicate, and individualism and collectivism is significant in that. So, to review, on the far left and right are extreme descriptions that seldom actually occur. People might see themselves as absolutely individualistic, or we might view a remote tribal culture as a simple collective. But most of the world lies somewhere in between, in these two categories in between. And the key difference between them is how we interact with groups. So, on the individualistic side, consultative individualism exists where people belong to and are influenced by multiple groups, but maintain an identity as an individual. They see the groups as contributing to their individual identity, meeting some of their needs. Consultative individualists will join groups because it's personally advantageous to do so and leave those groups when that need no longer exists. Western culture and many urban centers lie in that group. On the collectivist side, contextual collectivism occurs when people find their identity within the context they live in. They aren't just members of various groups, they are those groups. They don't see those groups as meeting their needs, but rather they feel they couldn't exist without those groups. To leave the group would be difficult or impossible because their identity is embedded in the context of the group. With that brief overview, how does that filter communication? Individualists find satisfaction in direct language and expressing opinions because they don't see their opinions as belonging to the group. Collectivists tend to be indirect and high context. That's a concept we'll look at later. Opinions belong to the collective and it operates on consensus. Therefore, there is no need to explain yourself. So here's some features of that indirect, direct communication style. Individualists will communicate more frequently, and are free to ask questions where collectivists will use more indirect language. For example, an individualist might say, "Hey, thanks for paying for our meal. My portion was $18. I'll Venmo you." Whereas the collectivist would simply express, "I enjoyed our meal together today." But they keep track and they are already mentally noting that next time it will be their turn to pay. Keeping exact account works against the sense of collectivism. An individualist makes friends through mutual attraction and time, but the decision to move forward in friendship is an individualist choice. Collectivists try to understand how you might fit into their group, what impact this new relationship will have on the group, and whether they want you to be associated with your group. Decision making for individualists is a process of debate and persuasion. In the end, you can be part of a group, but voice your disagreement with decisions. For collectivists, it's trying to level, build a shared understanding, and owning it together. Once a decision is made, it belongs to the group, and you wouldn't express any disagreement. Because individualists don't have the need to build context in the same way as collectivists, there's a stronger protection on personal information, such as how much money do you make? How much did you pay for that bread? Who's your mother? Are all questions that an individualist can keep private, but a collectivist sees it as part of the information that belongs to the group and it allows the group to function well. Another value cluster is weak and strong uncertainty avoidance. Cultures that don't seek to avoid uncertainty will also be less direct about plans and contingencies. They'll expect less precision here. When you ask what time is the meeting, they may respond with tomorrow morning. They also may accept an invitation and not show up, not because they're rude, but because they don't have a structure in their language for firm commitments. Plans change, life changes. To the best of my knowledge, right now, I will come to your house tomorrow. But who knows if that will actually happen? The impact on communication will involve several things. Planning. Let's see what happens. We can't know the future versus let's schedule that and control the future. Indirect language versus clear and precise language. Conflict as part of who we are, or conflict as causing uncertainty and therefore to be avoided. And the ability to be open with emotions or emotional restraint. And then there's power distance, how people perceive their relationship to those in authority. The larger the power distance, the more isolated ordinary people are from those in authority. Smaller power distance allows for greater familiarity, and that translates into greater familiarity in language. Power distance can be a real stumbling block for outsiders. If you come from a small power distance culture and you're used to thinking of everyone's opinion as equal, it's hard to come under a leader who must be seen as strong and distant. Here's some suggestions for how you might have to adjust your communication patterns. For small power distance, if you're moving into a culture with a small power distance, give the other's ideas equal weight to your own. Respect the other's freedom to make their own decision and expect the same from them. If you're moving into a large power distance culture, determine your power relationship to the other. Know the other's title and use it appropriately. That's generally quite important. And find appropriate language structure for each level of structure within the society. Another value cluster is how we orient ourselves around activity. How is life lived? And there are three potential solutions for that. The first is doing. Activity has external outcomes measurable by somebody else. Second is being, where activity has internal outcomes measured by self and satisfaction. And being and becoming, where activity is both internal and external, and the outcomes are, or the goal is self-development. To oversimplify a bit, strong doing cultures focus on performance. So people in these cultures see life as a series of tasks to be performed, and they measure their success in life by how well they perform. They make lists, plans, and goals and work through them one by one. On the other hand, strong being cultures focus on relationships. People of these cultures tend to see life as made up of other people with whom they do things. They make plans and goals, but generally allow those plans to change if doing so would bring them into a better relationship with others. So success for them is measured not by how much they do, but how they relate to others while doing things. Both cultures, both sides care about relationships, and they both care about what gets done. What's different is what they emphasize. This emphasis impacts communication in several ways. For people from a doing culture, they build relationships based on personal goals. So do you fit within those personal goals? They expect some healthy competition because they see it as good for relationships. So expect to compete, expect competitive language. They believe that some things should be held privately, not everything should be shared. They'll enter a friendship with you, but they'll see you as one among many, and therefore they'll not completely depend on you. For those from a being culture, they develop relationships through warmth and intimacy based on mutual respect and even mutual attraction. They do believe that competition's okay, but overt competition should be avoided as it can disrupt the relationship. They share things openly, and the reason they do that is to build more context because that strengthens relationships. And they invest deeply in relationships, not casually. So don't expect them to quickly become your friend. But once they become your friend, they'll be your friend forever.